Welcome back to the archives for round 2 of the National Open in Las Vegas. I'm sitting at 1 out of 1. So is my opponent. They received a forfeit win for round 1. So I wasn't sure exactly how informed they were, but I knew they hadn't lost yet. So I had the black pieces in this game. They played e4. My opponent is a little bit older than myself, so not playing any kids yet. And they play the Smith Morra gambit, a great weapon for club players. Lots of ways black can play against it, but not completely unsound for white. And you've got to be really careful, because if you don't play against it accurately, you can get a bad position very fast. So white pushes c3, sacrificing the pawn for a lead in development and often the initiative. So I accept it, which is often the best way to go against the gambit, is just take the pawn and say I can survive. And I decided to play a new line against it, one I had been looking at recently. And with bishop b4, I am pinning the knight and preparing my knight to come to e7. My opponent played queen to c2 here, and during the game, I thought he just blundered. Take a moment and see if you can find the move that I played during the game. You can pause the video if you'd like. And the move I played during the game, which was the best move in the position, is the move d5. Attacking the bishop, and if white saves the bishop, then we push the pawn again, attacking the pinned knight. I thought I was just winning a piece. My opponent thought I was just winning a piece. But there is a resource here for white that I'll just show you guys. The computer showed me, which is bishop to b5. And if we push and attack the knight, they capture on c6, pawn captures, and I believe they can play the move queen to a4. And now, if we take the knight, they are able to take our bishop. They're also eyeing up this pawn on c6. So queen to b6 is the best move for black, and it's just an even position. So queen c2, d5 didn't just lose the game for white, but it seemed like it at the time, and they reacted with the move a3, which is a losing move. In this position, black wins a piece with the move bishop captures c3, and then when they recapture, we capture on c4. And since we've already taken the extra pawn, we're up a clean piece, +3 for black. Everything is wonderful. As we can see, evaluation bar heavily favoring us. But after a3, I thought I could get more than a piece. I thought I could increase the pressure, leave the tension, and still get the piece later. And so I ended up playing the move queen to a5. The pawn was pinned, so I thought my bishop was safe, and my same threat remains, hitting the bishop and getting ready to hit the knight. My opponent thought for a while here, and they came up with the move e takes d5, and I capture back e takes d5, and now they take my bishop. And we go to this position right here. So now black is up in exchange. I didn't end up getting the full piece, but I am up the exchange. White's up in development, and they've got the lead in the initiative. And when I was going into this line with queen a5, I thought my king was going to be surviving in this position and that I would actually be doing fine. So I misevaluated it going into it. Right now, white completely winning, +7. So pretty crazy that the position switched from black winning to white winning so early in the game. Both of this within the first 10 moves of the game in a slow with a game with a time control of 90 minutes just for the first 40 moves. So after knight to d5, I realized that white actually has 2 threats. The only threat I was considering was the fact that they want to go knight to c7 and win back the exchange. But the second threat is actually against my queen. My queen has no squares right now. And so if I'm not careful, I'm going to just lose my queen. So I needed to find a move that prevented the fork on c7 and saved my queen. So take a moment here. This is a good opportunity. What move would you play as black to keep the game going? I know black's lost here, but if you resign every position where you're lost, you're not going to play much chess. So what is the move that gives you the best chances? You can pause the video now if you'd like. And the move I found, which I'm pretty proud of finding, is the best move in the position. Bishop to f5. And with bishop to f5, we're hitting their queen. So if they do fork us on c7, we're going to be able to just chase their knight, and then we'll take their queen later. Or if they take our bishop, then we'll be able to actually capture their bishop. And now, black is +9. So just with that piece exchange, now black is completely winning. So lots of tricks left in the position. However, my opponent, after a relatively long think, was able to come up with a good sequence here that really shut down the game. So kudos to them. So they go ahead, they play queen e2 check, which I expected. My king goes here, guarding c7, and they castle. And after castling, their idea is that they want to move this bishop and attack my queen. So I play the move rook to e8, attacking their queen. And I thought in this position, I was getting a lot of initiative back. I was going to be able to finish my development. And I thought I was doing okay here. However, the computer greatly disagrees. It says +28 for them. +28. And I'm the one-up material. And it all comes down to the really beautiful move that my opponent found, which I did not even consider during the game until they put it on the board, which was the move knight to b6, just further opening the position. They give up another piece, but now the d file is open, and my attack on their queen is meaningless. So I capture the knight. They play rook d1 check. And here I thought my king needed more room, so I decided to give the piece back. And then they capture the rook. And after the move bishop to f1, I can't simply move my knight yet. I've got to be careful because my opponent is threatening to play rook to c4. So if I move my knight, I've got to be aware that the rook can go here and fork, and that this rook will be under attack. So I still end up playing knight e7 because I'm going to play knight to c6 and prevent that fork. But I have to give up this rook in the process. And then my opponent goes down to rook d2. And I'm down a full rook now, right? We went from up an exchange to down a full rook. But I thought there were still chances here. I don't usually resign too early in games, especially when I've got major pieces, or I can imagine tactics still happening. And so what I'm imagining here is a position where I take this knight and the rook is hanging. Right? So if I can imagine tactics that get me back in the game, then there's no reason to resign. So I play bishop to e4, threatening the knight, and this is completely defensible for white, but they do have to be a little careful, I thought. But he finds a nice finishing move, queen to e8, ignoring my threat, saying that if you take my knight, then you will simply be checkmated. So at this point, I did not see a good way to avoid the checkmates, and I resigned. So a crazy game, a short game in terms of moves, ended up being a relatively short game time-wise too, compared to a lot of the other games, but a really interesting game. Played a new line, got a winning position, didn't cash in, decided that an exchange was better than a piece. A piece is better than an exchange, FYI, just so you know and so I know now. And then my opponent just used the initiative and the open board and the lead in development in a really instructive way. So after their opening mistake, they've really played a nice attack. So they got the exact type of position that they wanted, and they went on to win this game, and they won their first 5 games of the event. So they ended up finishing 5 out of 7, losing their last 2, but they had a great event. So I really had a chance to knock them down with that early tactic where I was winning a piece. And when I didn't do that, they pounced in this game, and then they clearly pounced in the next several games. So they were not a bad player at all. They gained like 100 points in this tournament. So well done to them. Tomorrow, we will be back with round 3 from the National Open, and we will talk about that game. It was another exciting one. Lots of interesting games to go over. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Feel free to comment with suggestions or questions about the game. Good luck in your studies and your games, and I'll see you next time.